Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joanne Lashley, and you're watching Matured Musicians interview with the Magnetic Gray Band. And before we start, I do want to give a shout out to Luscious Moss Studio, who sponsors this program. It's owned and operated by Chad Christ, who happens to be the lead guitarist in a band called Heart by Heart. Originally, two of the members from the Heart Band. And he has a studio in Edgewood, Washington, can meet your needs. If you have any need for a studio and recording, does a good job. He does all mine. So with that being said, his creative and collaborative, wow, I can't even talk this morning. Sorry, guys. Collaborative environment is fit your style. Contact him. He's on Facebook. You can find him there. And you can also go in through Luscious Moss. So with that, we're going to start, and I believe Dave is going to tell us a little bit about where he started and how he got to the Magnetic Gray Band.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. I'm Dave Harvey, as Joanne said, and I sing for Magnetic Gray. I joined the band about 3.5 years ago, I guess now. I had been in another band where most of the members moved out of town, and so I thought that maybe I wouldn't miss it. And then after a while, I started looking at online listings and stuff for bands that needed a singer. And the previous Magnetic Gray drummer and rhythm guitarist had put together a band, and they needed a singer. So I auditioned and got the gig. We practiced at the Evolution Studios in kind of the Bellevue Redmond area every week, and so that was kind of where we got pulled together. I grew up in a sort of a musical family, playing piano and trombone and other instruments, and been a big rock and roll music lover and fan for many years. I've gone to hundreds and hundreds of concerts, and even worked security for concert promoters for a while as well. So it's kind of ingrained in my DNA, and more recently, over the last 10 years, have been pretty deeply listening to Americana, alt country as a genre as well. So kind of listen to a lot of different types of music, and I guess that's a little bit about me from a background perspective. We have a lot of fun together, and we put on a pretty lively show with kind of, I guess we call ourselves alternative or punk, a little punky. I see Ron Bob in his head. Interesting story. We were trying to come up with a band name, and we're struggling a little bit. So I had the idea, since we're, none of us are 20, that we should come up with something gray in our theme. And so my wife had one of those big color swatches from Sherwin-Williams of all their paint colors, and so I started looking through them, and then came up with Magnetic Gray. And man, that's perfect. So that's the origin of the band. Yeah.
I saw these guys out at Duval. They came out to jam one night, and I walked up to him and said, "How would you like to interview in my program?" And they said yes, and here they are.
Yeah, we're happy to be there. So we're 5 pieces: lead guitar, rhythm guitar, bass, singer, me, and drums. And so, in terms of tenure, I think I'll pass it over to Ron, who is the next longest tenured member of Magnetic Gray.
Hey, Ron, before you start, who's missing?
We're missing Alan Brown, who's the lead guitar.
Oh, that's who I was calling you. All right.
Yeah.
And we're missing Paul, who's our bass player.
Paul had a recent bicycle accident and broke his collarbone, so he's on injured reserve right now.
Is he gray too? No. Okay, so how did you start? And what was your background with music, Ron? What was your influences when you did?
Yeah, so for me, music for me started in the 5th grade for drumming. And it was probably my parents forcing me into band. I can't remember for sure, but I'm sure that's the way it went down. But somehow I ended up on the drums, which I don't remember requesting that, but I'm happy to have done it. It stuck. I played in school band until high school. I stopped playing it then, but I picked up a little kit to play at home. So I had my boombox and Billy Joel playing along to Liberty DeVito.
When you were a child or later on after you were
high school? Yeah.
High school?
Yeah.
How did your family take to that?
Well, luckily I played it generally when they were out of the house. And it was a small kit. It was the kick drum was really tiny, and I had a marching band snare drum. So I don't know if you're familiar with snare drums, but most of them tend to be like 6, 7, 8 inches. Marching band drums are pretty deep. So I had marching band snare drum. I didn't have a hi-hat. I had a splash for a crash, and I think it was a hi-hat top I had for a ride, and one floor tom. That was it. So it was a pretty basic.
What was your favorite kind of music?
Back in that time, and honestly probably still now, as with most people when they get older, it was all the 80s rock stuff, really, because that was when I was in high school. So Van Halen, AC/DC, Scorpions, all that stuff was stuff I lost a lot of hearing to.
So are you from here? Yeah, here. So are you from here originally?
I am from here, yeah. So I went to high school, Lake Washington High School, and have been in the area for most of my life. I was out of state for college and then popped back in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What'd you take in college?
What was that?
What'd you take in college?
I was a history major and an English minor. So the dreams of being a writer, that was the game plan. So I was going to write historical fiction. So there we go.
So now you're heartbeat of a band instead of a writer.
Yeah, about 3 months after graduation, it's like, there's no money in this. So I had to find something else to do. Anyway.
Not enough to live on almost.
No. So from high school, when I went to college, I sold a kit. So I had no music going on at that point. So that was, so my life went like that without any drumming for a long time. Got married, had kids. And eventually it's like, I have to start drumming again. It's always in the back of the mind, right? Anytime the music's going, especially as a drummer, I'm always
a drug of choice.
Beat, right? Yeah, it is. So just before COVID hit, luckily, I picked up a little e-kit, a little bottom of the barrel e-kit, just to get familiar again with emotions. And then actually it was just before COVID hit, I upgraded it slightly to like a mid-range kit because I outgrew that one. Still wasn't playing in any bands at all. And then COVID hit, and it's like, well, there's nothing else to do but play drums. You can't leave the house. So I spent a lot of time drumming. And then once COVID was done, I joined a band that I'm still in. They're called the Molines, a group of people older than us who get together, and they don't play out at all. They try to get together once every like 2 months for a Saturday. We start at 3 and go to 10 and just jam the whole time.
Wow.
They've been together for almost 30 years. And so they have this catalog of like 900 songs. So when I joined them, what happens is they get together and the lead singer just says, let's play this song. And as a new person, it's like, how does that one go? And they take like 10 seconds. Go, all right, we got the key, let's go. And then I play catch up. But it's fun. It's fun to be able to do it that way. It's all Americana, classic country, stuff like that. So it's not too hard for the drums to.
So you play country?
Yeah, I'll play anything. It's fun. And then I don't know, 2 years ago, I think I joined the Magnetic Gray. I was looking for something more. It's like, well, once every 2 months wasn't enough to keep me going. So I'm still with those guys, but I wanted something more and I wanted to play live, and those guys weren't interested. So
yeah,
I joined the Magnetic Gray, and that's that.
And here you are.
Right.
I guess that brings us down to you. It's Dan, right?
It is Dan. How are you?
Well, a little confused, but I'm working through it.
Well, just don't call me Ellen. We'll be fine.
Okay, I promise.
It's okay. I'll still answer.
Uh,
I
you're the bassist, right?
No, I guess I'm the rhythm guitarist.
Oh,
I think I'm the newest to the band.
okay.
If that's so, I started with them, I think almost a year. So back in December, I believe was when I did the audition, and they invited me to come back. So I think that pretty much meant they
What
really.
was your background to doing the rhythm guitar?
Funny thing is, for the last, I don't know, 30 years of raising a family and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
I still managed to continue to play. But my original forte was lead guitar. Did that all through school, several bands. I was a Kiss fanatic. I was actually in a Kiss tribute band as well, which is funny because here I play guitar, but I was playing bass in the Kiss tribute band. But I played bass guitar through high school jazz band as well, so I had a lot of exposure to that. But my heart was playing the 6-string guitar. That's where I wanted to be. So that's how I got to be where I'm at.
So is
But
it acoustic or electric?
I play both.
Ah, great.
Yep. So for the last year, I mean, I got a call or a note from Ron. I think it was through Band Mix because I just put myself out there a little bit to kind of I wanted to play out there, and I'm glad he did because that opened some doors. It was perfect for me. I haven't played a lead guitar lick in I don't know how long, so it was like I could play rhythm. I could do this, you know. So that's where I kind of got reinitiated with it, but it also kind of got me playing my acoustic more. And I play at the Timberlake Redmond Worship Band. I play with them once or twice a month. So I'm playing that and playing my electric with the Magnetic Gray as well.
So you're just keeping it busy and keeping it working.
I am. And I'm enjoying the heck out of it too.
Yeah. Wow. Now we got through that pretty fast, but Ron is bringing up the fact that there wasn't about COVID. You were talking about COVID a little bit, which is kind of a segue into that section. Usually we spend a little more time on your background, but this is fine too. So when COVID hit, I was just getting back into it. I had to quit 2015 and health reasons and whatever. So when COVID hit, I thought and I just started jamming and doing a volunteer senior band in 2019 when I got back. And things had changed completely. The last gig I had was Halloween 2015. And I had to learn all over again. It was kind of a perplexing time. And then COVID hit, and I said, now what am I going to do? So I started songwriting, and that's where I was going. So Ron, what were you were saying that it brought you back to music, correct, during the COVID period?
Yeah. It was so I was, I'm working from home, so I'm working on my computer, and behind me was my e-kit. So I would just work and then turn around and play. So I had some online lessons and things like that would kind of push me to do some things that I hadn't yet done. And yeah, I just got to a point, luckily COVID was ending, where I felt I was good enough that I could find a band and play. And that's when I started looking.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you have any worries that it might not come back and we might be stuck in a rut for a while?
From a COVID perspective or just the music perspective?
Well, both. They're interconnected if you're a musician.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see that venues were opening up and there were places to play.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly a good thing. Hopefully more will show up, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of competitive right now. It seems like everybody, there's bands coming up all the time. I've kept busy for 3 years doing this. So they're out there. And I guess that brings me down to Dave, as far as COVID. What was going on for you during that period of time?
I was in a band at that time that was pretty active. We practiced constantly and played out every so often. And we tried to kind of forge on. And I can remember going to, because I'm the singer, so
Yeah.
I'm going there with and singing with a mask on because everyone was, really worried about catching something. And I think I want to say it was a Seattle area church choir or something like that, where they all gave each other COVID in the early days because they didn't. Because I mean, you're projecting, right? So, Anyway, we did the best we could with it. We would practice for a while, and it seemed like a variant would uptick, and so then we would take a month off, and then we'd get back together. But you're right, Joanne. It was just very disconcerting. I kind of filled some time in there and took one of these online courses on music theory just to kind of keep the wheels rolling during that period. Yeah,
that was some boring stuff to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, it brought back a lot from kind of elementary school, junior high era that I had learned, but I had forgotten some of it. So anyway, it was probably useful, but it still isn't thrilling, even at this age it wasn't that thrilling. But the singing with a mask was very challenging.
I don't think I could have done that. I don't have I have a fairly strong voice, but not to sing through a mask and all that heat and moisture. That'd be awful.
Well, the room we practiced in the guitar player's, he had like a loft, so it was upstairs in his house with no real ventilation, and so he would close all the windows when we practiced because he didn't want the neighbors to complain. So it was inherently hot. And then the mask, it was super fun.
But
it's a good story, right?
Yeah, it is. So what about you, Dan?
Well, I call it the end of the world. During the end of the world, I didn't know, when or how it would turn out or how it would end to the point to where we would, be able to do things we want to do again. But what it did prompt me to do is I went out and bought a brand new Taylor acoustic guitar.
There's some. Oh, those are cool. I know a couple of real players that play those, and they are.
Well, I did quite a bit of research. I remember watching, I think it was American Idol. It seems like 100 years ago, where I noticed that all those young kids were all playing Taylors, and it dawned on me, okay, Taylor's probably a sponsor, and it's filmed down in the Hollywood, LA area, and Taylor's down there in the San Diego area. But I just started connecting with that and did a lot of research on it, and went out by myself with the mask on over at the Guitar Center when they were allowing customers in there, and I sat there for hours, just trying to find a guitar that I liked. And I was attracted to Taylor, but I wanted to make sure I was doing my due diligence. So long story short, spent a lot of time doing research, and I did pull the trigger, and I did buy that guitar eventually. And then what it prompted me to do was to get a little bit of recordings, equipment at home, and got a little Focusrite, 3-input device, 212, I think it is. And turned out my daughter could sing.
Oh, no, great.
My daughter's like 20, I think she's like 20 at the time, which I think she's like 25, 26. And she had just graduated over at UW and had not moved out and had done any of that because of the whole pandemic. So she was living with us while she was working. She got a job at Microsoft and so on and so forth. But we would just figure out a song she wanted to do or I would do, and we would just lay it down and record them. And then we had a blast. Yeah. That was probably the majority of our time. I would say hours.
So what did you use? What kind of system did you use on it?
Oh, my regular home computer, but I got a Focusrite audio device, an input device, so I could plug directly into it. And it came with some headphones, came with a condenser mic, nothing fancy. I think it was like $200-300, and it's just a great way to use that. And when my son was for a senior project before he went to college, his senior project was to record his own music and lay it down. So I helped him buy the software for it. It was FL Studio, was what it was, and it turned out it was a lifetime version. So I get all the updates. So I had it. Didn't have to go out and buy it again, even though he wasn't using it. So that's what I used. But we just had a blast. But it wasn't anything like a professional home studio, but for doing something out of your office / spare bedroom, it worked really well to do that. So it was fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. Everybody uses Pro Tools that I know. So,
Well, it came when I bought the Focusrite. It came with a Pro Tools trial.
Oh.
But I was finding I had a lot more availability and flexibility with what I already had purchased.
Yeah.
That's why I just made the call to make the change.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Well, we have been doing what you were doing prior in 2015 for all the way back to about 2000, and we were editing, doing all. My husband was doing all that, not me. What I was doing, but then after we dropped out and had come back into 2019, things had changed, exponentially. I mean, it was just. I looked at Pro Tools and I thought, what? There's a guy, his name is Lyle. I can't think of his last name. All right, no, but he's an artist and independent artist too, singer-songwriter. And he had the Pro Tools, and he was showing the music that he was developing and producing that would eventually go to a real producer and be mastered. But he had Pro Tools, and I was watching him do all the things that he was doing on there, and I thought, oh my gosh, you'd almost have to go to school to learn that. Yeah. So I hired a producer. I hired one of the guys who was out there singing, and he wasn't getting it. They weren't doing as well during that period of time. I wonder why, of course. Anyway, he had a lot of time in his hands, so I started producing through him, and I think I went through about nine recordings that we produced and got mastered down in California. So it was quite an enjoyable time. And then I noticed that people were streaming, and I was going to ask each of you if you've ever done actual live, just one person's solo music.
Have not. No.
Yeah. So you always worked with bands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying that solo stuff. Let me tell you, it's a real kick. I'm used to bands too, and it's just not the same. I mean, but then again, it's not the same when you're doing a live gig with a band versus making a recording. Very different kind of thing.
Now that I think about it, I've done a couple of open mics where I just went out there and played whatever song I could think of.
Yeah.
But I was clearly not out of my comfort zone.
Me either. I'm getting there.
I mean, I can sing, but I don't have a lot of confidence in being a lead singer. So that kind of pressure is just I'm not happy there. I'm happy playing guitar. That's where I'm the happiest.
Yeah. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to. No, I have not gone out and just sang without a band either.
Yeah, well, it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
I was thinking that there's sort of pluses and minuses. I've thought about that before because there's so many places that if you can sing and play an acoustic guitar to do gigs, you can be slotted into restaurants and coffee shops and neighborhood things like that, as opposed to we have to play a specific sort of venue that's going to accept 5 loud guys. So it kind of rules out a lot of those more tame venues, I would say.
Tame.
Tame.
Quieter venues.
Quieter. That's the right word. Yes.
Dave, maybe one day we'll do an acoustic set somewhere at a local coffee shop.
That'd be fun.
Gotta try it once.
Acoustic flash.
One of the things that got me through COVID, Joanne, and you'll appreciate this. I don't know if you listen to Ryan Bingham.
No.
You look up Ryan Bingham. He's from New Mexico, but he's been living in West Texas, Americana, alt country. He's fantastic, and he to kind of get his fans through it, he set up a studio in his basement. I think he called it like Ryan Bingham's Cantina. And he would come down there, and half the time he'd have some different goofy hat on, and he'd record 2 or 3 songs. And so we all started, every week to see what he played. Some of them would be Ryan Bingham songs, and then he did some spectacular covers that I'm sure are all out there on YouTube or something. But there were some dark days there, and to have something like that every week, you're kind of going, I don't know what he's going to come up with this week. It was pretty cool.
We got to the point where we were starving without music, so we had no place to go to hear it, or
I know.
Places that we did. We're not comfortable outside. And so we started listening and looking for these independent singer-songwriter people that were putting out live on the stream.
Yeah.
And we had Garth Brooks and Keith Urban, and I could go on and on, but there were more than one person out there, plus local people doing this.
Yeah.
And the more they did it, the more I was listening to it. And I found this, it came out at 5:00 on Thursday night. I think it was Thursday nights. And her name was Jessica Lynn Whitty. She's an independent singer-songwriter. Quite skilled, I might say. She started touring after COVID, but to get back to what I was saying, her and her husband were encouraging people during this hour show, and she was telling what she was doing, where they were going with the gigs they had, etc., in the midst of COVID, mind you. And they encouraged me to write. So, and the more that I got involved with her, the more I was looking for these people to find out who is doing what, because of the fact that there was some music out there. And, it was when it came to doing it for myself, I thought, I'm not going to there for half hour to an hour, going to do a solo act. I didn't feel comfortable with that at all. So here's what happened. It became an interview session.
Oh, okay.
And then I had to name it. And I thought, well, that's my next question, by the way. That's what I'm leading into here. But I was thinking, well, what can I name this thing? And first, I had 2 things that I wanted to do. One was to help people get back into it and to be heard. And if they have programs, singing, that people could tune into, that would be a good way to get the information out. And I thought, you never really get to talk to people who are in a band. I mean, you do, but it's usually not deep subjects like about their background and all that and how they got into the band, because you don't have time for that. And so I thought, well, that isn't going to work. And then I thought about doing something on, I worked with battered women's shelters or domestic violence for a long, long time. And I thought, well, maybe a program like that. And I thought, nah, that's depressing. It's already depressed. So and I came back to this idea, and I thought, what am I going to name it? So I can't name it, anything about the military, because I wouldn't fit. And I searched and searched, and finally I came up with Matured Musicians, which really wasn't meant for the people. It wasn't meant like the musician was matured, but rather the music. And it was kind of hard to say, well, matured music. I mean, musicians, it's too long a name. So that's how this all happened. And they've had an awful lot of fun with this. A lot of these musicians say to me, well, I'm a musician, and I don't know if I'm matured or not. Can I still be on your program?
That's kind of what we said.
Yeah.
So when you were looking for your name, I thought that was.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it was a good idea. I'm glad you did it.
so I guess the question from here is, now that you're formed, and we know that you don't want to do necessarily solo acts at this time, um, and you are matured musicians in the sense that your music has been out there for a while. I mean, you're not novices at this. You've all been playing with music for a long time until you finally got together and begin to develop this band. So what are you looking at in the future? Where do you want to go with your band? What are you looking at from this point on? Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, from a band perspective, I think it's just, gig more and more consistently.
Yeah, are you having any problems with that? I guess that's the next question. Is it difficult to get out there and to get gigs for you? Excuse me.
It is because we don't have
Following.
years of kind of gigging in this area where you have a following and you have a name that people will recognize. So it's harder for us to get in. What we've been doing is like the Twin Dragons thing.
Yeah.
The Twin Dragons.
That's the way to do it these days.
You're right. So you do an open jam and show what you have, and that's turned into a gig in February. I do a lot of Facebook for the band. I'm just always looking for opportunities to pop. So that we gigged out in Everett here early October. I think it was the 4th. And that came about because somebody posted, "Hey, I just pulled together a gig, but I need 2 other bands. Who wants to join?" So I jumped on it and said, "Here we are. Here's our stuff." I think making sure we have something like the Reverb Nation built out where you can see who the band is and hear some of the recordings and whatnot. I think that certainly helps because when you don't have the following, you need people to point people to something, not just say, "Hey, we play music. You want us."
Dan, do you have any comments on that?
Well,
thank you.
Well, following Ron's lead,
Ron.
just the more we can, get some publicity, the better, and the more chances we're hoping that we're going to get something out of it. But it's the same. I mean, to me, this is a lot of fun. It's something that at least I'm passionate about, and I believe everybody else in the band is as well. So we want to play that music for people.
Absolutely. And you should be heard.
Absolutely. And we'll get better for it. Not that we, have an issue with that, but the more we get, the more opportunities we get, just the better we'll become.
Any thoughts on that? Thank you for that.
Sure.
Any thoughts on that, Dave, for you?
Yeah, I think they really summed it up. I mean, it's a matter of everywhere that we have played, people were entertained, they enjoyed it, and so that leads to other opportunities. The night we met you, at Twin Dragons, we had played there before, and it was just kind of play a couple songs and leave sort of thing. And this time we met you, which is fantastic. Turns out, Doug McGrew and I went to junior high together.
Oh my gosh.
I've known Doug since we were little kids, and we would all watch him play drums he was a fantastic drummer as a 12-year-old or 13 or whatever we were. So, that leads to talking to Doug, who, brought the owner out to hear us play. So in President's Day weekend, we'll be able to play up there, and we hit it off with the owner of the Lucky Dime in Everett. And so hopefully we'll get more gigs there, or who knows, maybe some other bar owner in Everett saw us. I don't know, but one thing leads to another. But it's those early openings, and whether a particular promoter runs a region. In our area, Joanne, we've got various promoters who kind of have their stable of bands, and they might own a region. So you've got to make a decision on whether you want to be involved with a promoter like that or do your own thing. There's kind of business decisions to be made there, I think.
So you're saying promoter, but do you mean booker or sort of a combination of promotion booking?
I think I would say probably a combination. I mean, as an example, I don't know if you're familiar with Morgan Henley, but most of the gigs in the Snoqualmie Valley on up to Snoqualmie Pass and probably up, to Duval and further north. If you look in the lower corner, it's a Morgan Henley Presents. So he's done a really good job of kind of working with a bunch of the bar owners and
Is he out of Carnation? Does he?
He does. I think is that the Brody Fest that he does out there in Carnation? There is a big festival he does out there, and he is present in.
Yeah, then I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But,
I stay away from promoters and bookers. They make me nervous.
yeah. Well, yeah. We haven't, I don't think, made a decision on how we feel about it either. But right now, Ron does a fantastic job of monitoring our Facebook and kind of networking that way. And, we'll see where that leads and if we need to have a booker.
Yeah. Well, we had to take one to small claims court.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Wait, that was back in the day. And I had a band for 2015. And the lady that was booking was just a handshake. There was no contract, nothing. And she died. She got a car accident or something. I can't remember what it was. But he had been working with her, and he took over her people to book here and there. And he declared that we had a contract with him, and he wanted a 25% of our earnings. And
Wow.
I finally took it to court. It never came to anything. He bowed out, stopped, and that was the end of it. But
Wow.
we didn't have to get a decision or anything. So after that, I got a bad taste in my mouth. And so I do know quite a few people that do that. Shorty McMillan, he does a lot of rock stuff in the area. I don't know if you've ever met Shorty.
No.
I've interviewed him. And if you go to my Joy Lashray or Joanne Lashray, either one, on YouTube, all my interviews are listed there on my channel. And I would definitely encourage you to either have a website or a channel as well where they can hear you too. But, it's all an option. Everybody does it different. Everybody does it the way they think is best. But there's a new young lady that I just met that's doing it too. And a lady that trained me on how to market my music. And these three people all are pay to play, which is another thing I stay away from because she had, I think they were going to get the first $150. So she had to sell tickets.
Mm.
Yeah. And to use the room in that club, she had to pay them. And so that night she broke even, but she didn't make anything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary too. But a lot of it today, unlike it was back when I was doing it and before now, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, well, it's more than that now. It was much easier to get gigs than it is today. And now a lot of the places that you need to play, if you don't jam there and show them and then go up to say who's in charge of your music, your manager or whatever, it can get booked that way. It's a good thing to have a place where people can see your music. I was looking for videos. I couldn't find ones, and I didn't see anything in there. Did I miss something, Ron?
On the Reverb Nation?
Yeah.
We don't have anything up on Reverb Nation yet because our YouTube link is not youtube.com, and Reverb Nation has some kind of filtering where you have to be .com.
Oh, really?
But the short link they gave me is not .com. So right now we don't have any videos up there.
So yeah, and another thing that they're asking for that's new, and a lot of the older people that have played before and have bands before are finding this, that the newer places like breweries and wineries want EPKs, electric press kits, and those can usually be put on a website. But it's recommendations and videos for them to see how you play. So the business has changed, and although I'm no one to give you advice. It's good to have that knowledge and keep it in mind.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I hope you guys get all the gigs that you need. So,
Thank you.
what are your, I thought I read in somebody's bio, I read so many bios that sometimes I get lost, but I thought somebody was telling me that it was a challenge to play out in the open rather than just to play and practice by themselves.
I think Alan had that maybe.
Alan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get his thing now. Yeah. And so I always go to jams and I meet people there that I can use to put a band together that I know plays well enough to be able to, do a good showing.
Yeah.
And they also, that's another thing that the independent artists are doing and bands are doing is going to the jams and asking for the gigs after they play. And I haven't done that yet. I don't want that much work at this point yet. I work my butt off 3 nights a week, sometimes 4, for 15 years, and I'm sort of not really into everything. And we also both of us work 40-hour weeks or more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a battle, and I do hope you manage in the future. There are a few not bookers. There's a few people who do the pay to play. There's a couple of bookers that sometimes watch these programs. Another place that you might be interested in looking into is the Oxford Saloon in Snohomish.
Yeah.
Does anybody know about that
I
place?
have them on Facebook. Yeah. I watch their stuff.
Yeah, Larry Walker. If you've gone in there a few times and people get to know you a little bit, and you've played for him, and you're asked for a gig, that's the only people he usually books are people that have played there because they've supported the club and music in that club. So he's open too. The problem that I'm finding is they're paying people less than what I made 15 years ago.
Yeah. There's not a lot of money to be had. You rarely pay. Sometimes you're not paying for your beer and your dinner that you had while you're there for 4 hours, right?
Yeah. That's almost criminal.
Yeah.
It's too bad. But I understand it from the club owners, and people aren't out drinking the way they used to. Laws have changed and people are afraid. People are getting older.
Yeah.
And the economy isn't the greatest, so, or at least down here in where I live. So people don't have a lot of money, and I've noticed everything's gone up considerably in clubs. If you order food, we don't drink, so we have to order food when we go out. So yeah, I can understand from the club owner's point of view, but you guys, band people and independent artists go out there and they have to pay for their equipment, their gas, their time, their advertising, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And so I get it, but still, we still need to be justly compensated. Hopefully, as we move further and further away from all this craziness after COVID, those wages will go up. But as long as musicians are keeping the wages down, because if you accept a gig and you get a beer, and it's going to keep happening, and there's a lot of people doing that because otherwise you don't get to play.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah, I'm sure this is the kind of thing that the power dynamic changes. Sometimes the bands have leverage and sometimes the bars or venues have leverage. And like you said, probably right now the bars or venues happen to have leverage.
Right. Yeah. Just the circumstances. Yeah. Also, the music changes. One of the things that I don't know if you know Lynn Sorensen. He used to be the bassist for quite a few years with Bad Company.
Oh.
He was at my gig playing last night, and he said that it goes in cycles. Music goes in cycles, because right now, country players are not being, the club owners, especially the casinos, are saying do you play rock? Do you play some rock with your country? And it's like, well, wait a minute. It's either or, isn't it? Or whatever. So country isn't doing that well right now, but rock is. And that's the old rock, 80s and 90s kind of stuff. I have yet to see a lot of people with Americana music, and I don't really know how to categorize that. You got any thoughts on how you would categorize Americana music?
I actually had this thought between my two ears about a month ago when I was at an Americana show, and I was thinking, well, how would I categorize it? I was thinking it was kind of this confluence of blues, rock and roll, and country. Maybe with even a little bit of funk in some cases mixed in there, but kind of this confluence. Definitely a lot of bluesy bass to the music, but maybe some more country lyrical content, and then you'll see some instrumentation that would be much more country than rock. Steel guitar,
Yeah.
Things that you just wouldn't really see in pure rock and roll very often.
Yeah, gotcha.
That was my thought.
Yeah. Well, have you seen any places other than yourselves where they're hiring Americana? Is that going fairly well, or out there? Not necessarily for you yet because you're starting up again, but what you're seeing along the way?
Well, I go to the Tractor Tavern a lot in Ballard.
Yeah.
That's almost entirely alt country and Americana, and they'll have
I didn't know it was Americana. Okay, so
really big touring, in that genre, big touring bands will play there. But then also, I think they have some nights of the week where it's more localish bands there. And the same owner owns the Sunset Tavern, which is right up the street. And then I think if those like the show that I was having the thought about defining Americana, that had gotten too big for the Tractor, so they bumped it to the new Crocodile in Belltown, which was really nice.
Where's Belltown? I'm sorry, I'm not from this area.
Kind of the northern edge of downtown Seattle, leading all the way to the Seattle center is Belltown.
Okay. Okay. Good to keep in mind. I have a few Americana players. Do either any of you know Doug Cooper?
No.
That's what I do.
Doug Cooper. He does Americana, but he's a solo artist. Yeah, I mean, he plays some bands too. He's a bassist, but he's also a guitar player and an acoustic player, and he does a lot of small festivals and similar places where you can play outside and to a group of people, as well as clubs. And he's doing quite well. He doesn't make a living from it, but he at least is playing a lot. So that's something to be said. I forgot to tell you guys that we have like Zoom, we have a place on here where if you have a file on your computer, anything that you'd wanted to share about your band or anything that you would like the public to see, we could load it and put it in here too. Excuse me. So unfortunately, we probably can't do that today. But I like to follow up. I do put people on more than once. So 6 months to a year. It's usually more like a year by the time I get back to people. I like them to come on and tell us, excuse me, how things have been going and, their schedule and what's new. Let's catch up, see what's going on.
That sounds great.
Yeah, great. So I hope to see you guys. Pardon, somebody saying?
Somebody love to do that.
Okay, great. So at this point, we've got about 15 minutes here. And I'm like, So, is there anything that you would like to tell people out there who are starting out like you are? Anything that you found out, or any information that you think is something you'd like to convey to my listeners who may be watching this later hours rather than live, because I don't have anybody on your live today. Is there any information that you'd like to tell them, or
To help people who are starting to get going? And
anything you found out throughout your career, anything that you think would be helpful to share?
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably two things. One is for the individual musician is to not be afraid to do it, right? I think a lot of people probably play by themselves in their home and have really good skills, and just like confidence to get out.
Yeah.
And these open mics and whatnot, they're great opportunities, like you said, to meet people where you can also get together and form just a couple of people, maybe get a couple of songs down and do it as a band together. I would highly encourage people to just get out there.
Totally agree with you. Yes.
And then as a band, when you're getting going, kind of the same rules apply. Getting to know other bands and getting together with other bands and other musicians in the area will open doors for you.
Yes.
So again, don't just stay in your rehearsal studio, wait for somebody to knock on the door, because that's not going to happen. Get out there, meet people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I didn't think anybody wanted to play with me. That's my thing. I was out there. Nobody wants to play. How am I ever going to find a lead? I'm looking for a lead. Well, then I found out that today it's different. Instead of being with one band, most people belong to 2 or 3 bands, or they're out there soloing. So, yeah, different scene. Anybody else? Dan, Dave.
I think Ron nailed it. That's 2 things. I mean, clearly that people need to just push themselves. Getting out of your comfort zone is another piece of it, but just do it. That's what you want to do. Just do it. Make it happen. Learn.
Mm-hmm.
Learn.
Yeah.
I remember back to high school band days and how there was this sort of rivalry between everyone's, different bands, they're okay, but their bass player sucks, or, whatever. It was all about rivalry. And like Ron said, I find that that's not the case for mature musicians. That often it's more of a camaraderie, actually, that you really want the other band that you're playing with to do well, or you're at least I find myself very interested in seeing, what they do well, or, there's even been scenarios where we've watched another band and thought, oh, that song would be really good to add to our, it fits in our mix perfectly. And so, we picked it up. So that makes it all the more fun. But I do think, for those people who are at home and, as Ron said, just kind of honing their skills by themselves, and they're probably getting some satisfaction from that process, that taking it to the next level, whether it's playing out as a solo act or joining a band or whatever, that kind of increases I think that'll increase their satisfaction.
All right. I in my undergrad studies, I was a sociology major, and one of the things that we had to take had to do with sociological tests, things that trying to prove what actually was the real cause of something. And when they put in different scenarios, different schools and different levels, they put an A student in with students that were maybe C or D students collectively. The whole thing got better. Even the C students were getting into the B's and A's. And I do think that there's a lot of words that are appropriate and correct when you said what you did about, even if that member isn't up to par when you first get them, you can work that person with you and get to where you want him to be or want them to be and exceed, and you all be better in the end.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you, Joanne, about, on a different topic. One of the things that we did quite well in my previous band was write originals, and it was always the guitarist and I had a rapport, and we could write songs really well together. And in Magnetic Gray, we have a couple of originals that we play. And so down the road, you're kind of asking about the future and stuff. And so I think that would be an area we would buff out further. And I was wondering what your process was. I believe some of the music I've heard from you was original music. Am I correct in that?
Well, some of it. And I don't usually do my music, my studio music live. I do a few songs. And the reason is they're rather complex. Chad Christ is just he's something else as a musician. He's an extremely talented, well-trained person in any genre and production. So when he lays down the guitar parts for the music that I write, or sometimes he actually does the music. Most of the time I do, but he fleshes it out. I tell him what I want.
Okay.
And so when I do live music, I don't like it being slaughtered.
Yeah, well, I understand.
And there are songs that have been out there forever that I change the speed, or I change the words. It's a lot of guys' songs. I make girl songs.
For sure.
Changing words. But I like to take music that's out there and sometimes change it. Driving My Life Away has a country version that's very different than the rock version that I created.
Okay.
And when and if I ever find the lead that's willing to sit down and learn my music, and I can't ask Chad because this guy is so busy. It's hard to even squeeze in a recording session, much less anything else.
Yeah.
He's always on the go. So it's really hard for me to find somebody that's willing to do that. And that would be able to start at the level where they were able to work up to it if they couldn't do it at first. And so I've been kind of hesitant. Hopefully I'll get over that. But right now I've been hesitant to share my music, a lot of the good songs that I have not allowed it to be presented.
They're not out there in the wild yet, huh?
Yeah, I do a few. I do like 3 or 4 of them. But again, I kind of cringe when I know I'll get over this, but I cringe at a jam when they massacre my songs, And,
yeah, well, it's your baby.
Train wrecks, and I get charts. Chad always, whenever he produces a song for me, he writes a chart. So if you look at the chart, it'll tell you how many beats in the measure and what the chord is, etc. No, if you have capo or whatever. So it's all out there. So whoever knows how to read a chart of music would be able to do it. So I thought, well, there's a lot of good leads. Maybe I'll try it out with them. No. Even some of the best, it gets massacred and train wreck. And there's just so many train wrecks I'm willing to go through. So yeah.
It sounds like a song in itself.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a country song waiting to happen.
Yeah, there you go. Oh
He
my gosh.
massacred my song.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think I'll get over that eventually, but it takes so much time and effort and money to put my thoughts down and get them recorded and mastered and on the radio, which some of them, I'd say probably 10 or more songs have now been on the radio, not mainstream radio, but, local stations and whatever. And the time and money it takes to get it right, because I don't know if you've done any actual production in a studio. Chad's a perfectionist, and so am I. So we don't want to, now with AI, you don't want to make it so that it's so clean that it isn't real.
Yeah.
And you don't want it so crappy that it isn't good. It's a balance. And I'm thinking, well, if they don't know the song and they can't read the chart, and they really aren't there to do your music, they're just there to jam. Now they try. Some people try, and I can name quite a few that do great jams. I just don't want to massacre, because I want people to listen to them. I want people to hear them, and in their natural form. And it's two different things between live and studio. So.
Yep.
Most of what I write is about things that I have an intimate experience with. So I'm working on one now. It's almost done. I'm waiting for, I don't know if you ever heard of the Hot Rodsters, but Drew Schneider is the lead for them, and he's been playing with the gigs that I've had so far. And I was telling you about Lynn Sorensen, who was with Bad Company, who was a bassist for them. He saw it at Wembley. And I have to study this music, because I play his music when he's singing, because I play rhythm too. And I'm watching this screen, and they pan into the crowd, 100,000 people in Wembley. And
Wow.
so I don't know enough to be intimidated, because I was so innocent when I started these jams. I didn't even know what Bad Company was, because I don't follow rock. I follow country. So I didn't have the good sense to be afraid that he would hear my mistakes. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen, but I would say there are quite a few artists on here who play their music before they produce it. So they have a song, they get their band together, which I don't have a standing band, so that is a little hard to do today. Find people that are committed and have the time to do that, because most of them are out there playing 4 or 5 bands, They've done them, and they've done their songs out in public, and then when it comes to production, they know exactly what the crowd likes or what they don't, and how to work on it and put it together to make it something that'll play and play well with the audience.
Gotcha.
It's important.
Yeah. So with that being said, we are already 2 minutes over an hour. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But I do want to follow up with you guys. I do thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your thoughts and your journey. I will be checking in with you in the future. And if I forget, you'll remind me.
Will do.
So good luck, guys. And it's been great fun. And do take care, all of you.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it's very nice chatting.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Take
guys.
care.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, bye. Well, that's it for me. I don't have anything next week. I'm still working on trying to get all these bands in here. I've lost some of my viewers, and I kind of hate to be interviewing people when I don't have an audience. So I hope you do join and you do listen to this, so that I can keep going and they can keep being heard. But if not, well, that, que sera, sera. What will be, guys. So nothing next week. Don't look for it. But I do have a man who's an artist in Australia, and he is going to be interviewed on, I'm not sure which Monday it is, but I'm pre-recording it on the 6th of November. So whatever comes after that, let's see if I can find it here. It would be airing on I believe the 11th. The 11th of November, the band he will be on. So do continue to watch the advertising, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to vote. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good rest of your week.